What's up, guys? It's Richie Rich back yet again, and this time I'm doing a review to a sequel to the monstrous comedy from the 90s next Friday. Be sure to check this out.
Ice Cube, baby. 99, baby. I'm on the grind, baby. All the time, baby. Show me something.
You can do it with your back.
So, next Friday, that was released in the first year of the noughties, starring returning Ice Cube and the replacement for Smokey, Day Day, played by Mike Epps. This was actually a request from one of my loyal, devoted rich fanatics. Yeah, he actually, requested me, and sorry I've taken so long to get this, but finding this was. I'm not saying finding this was easy, but I was delving into like doing a lot of other things. Just check my channel, man. It's like pretty much everywhere. But that being said, I definitely had like that kind of itch, after reviewing the first one Friday, which is one of my favorite comedy, films, forever, man. Like that's such a heartwarming film, But after I watched that first film, I definitely said, like, what, it would be so cool if I could see, the rest of the trilogy, So even though I reviewed that a while ago, I did watch like the whole trilogy, because I always used to have the box set of Friday, next Friday, then followed by Friday after next. So like as this came out, so this came out 5 years after the original film in 1995. So you got this come out in 2000 and the first one in 1995, and it's actually a big kind of, like, let's say, shock, different in culture. Where the mid 90s is really represented in the first film. This film really it really like presents the new kind of era of like black entertainment. If like I say, the mid 90s was the time of obviously that West Coast East Coast, rivalry, Biggie, Tupac, all them like rap roots, that New Jack Swing kind of era. Fast forward to the 2000s, you had Jay-Z, breaking up, obviously Eminem coming in later, and even to make a comparison, like the 90s TV sitcoms that were at the time, one of my favorites, hopefully I'll get to review that sooner rather than later, Martin TV series, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Living Single, that was definitely fitted to the Friday film, like some of the themes and the cult, like the way they spoke in that, it was very related to the TV shows at the time. Same as this. This was like definitely when what is it, My Wife and Kids came out, which was in the early 2000s. Alongside that, the Bernie Mac show. Everybody Hates Chris. So just within that 5 years of like that 90s era to the early 2000s, there was a big shift in like black entertainment, and we are not talking about BET, ladies and gentlemen. So man, yeah, let me touch more about the whole like next Friday, what's it? What happened is the guy who actually directed the original film, F. Gary Gray, who also directed another favorite of mine, Set It Off, starring Miss Living Single Queen Latifah, and he also went to direct the much acclaimed movie of the N.W.A, basically biopic, Straight Outta Compton. He actually didn't return for this film, which it's like you can kind of tell from the beginning of the film that like it just doesn't have like F. Gary Gray's touch on, like he's kind of stamp on it, from the moment you see this, it's like you already know that it's the sequel because the characters from the first one, a lot of the characters from the first one appear, but just the way the film is set. It's kind of like how in, the sequel to Batman Begins, you got The Dark Knight. Even if they didn't say who the director was, you just know from the way the movie begins and is set up that is still got Christopher Nolan's handiwork. This film, from the moment you see it, you know, like, you know, F. Gary Gray is not here, man. He didn't return for this at all. And like, you know, obviously speaking of returning, the biggest change, you know, because like I said, like there's numerous characters that appear here on there in the sequel to Friday. Biggest one was the replacement from Chris Tucker, who played like a fantastic, did a fantastic, you know, breakout performance in the first Friday. Instead of Chris Tucker, we have a replacement of Mike Epps, who plays Day Day. Now, similar to Chris Tucker, Mike Epps was on the original Russell Simmons Def Comedy Jam show, you know, and he was appearing on you know, like just like different things, because he was based in New York, so he was one of the comedians who was like, you know, there and that, you know, and he obviously, you know, he must have been a really popular comedian to get picked up for this, you know. And you know, even sometimes, you know, I kept some, because I have like I've watched the whole Def Comedy Jam series extensive, you know, to the max. So I've seen like what comedians who really were like, you know, the crowd started to get a feel for them. They would actually return as hosts, you know. And Mike Epps was one of the I believe he was one of the few, you know, stand-up comedians at the time who actually got to host it, just like Martin did, you know, Cedric the Entertaining, Dave Chappelle, Steve Harvey. You know, he was one of them, like, you know, killer comedians during the 90s. And I feel like with Mike Epps in this film, it does bring like a certain freshness to the sequel, you know, because what I've always said with like I think I said this a while back ago on another you know, sequel, sometimes when there's a, you know, like the first film is such a big, you know, success, you know, and no one ever saw it coming, a lot of the times the studio will just try to replicate the same what worked in the first film. They'll try and replicate, you know. I mean, it happened in Die Hard. Die Hard's the best example, you know. They went from the Nakatomi Plaza to the airfield, but same idea of Bruce Willis alone, you know, and he's got to try to do all these things to save everyone. Yeah, and I felt like with obviously just like dropping, like, you know, literally one of the main characters from the first film and putting Mike Epps, and you know, where this story tells the whole thing of like continuing from the first film, but the idea that you know, basically Craig's moving in with his cousin to the suburbs. It's just like a different setting from what we've seen in the first one, you know. So it was just a nice idea. I really am glad that like Chris Tucker didn't appear for this sequel, you know. It was Mike Epps. It's just an idea to put like a new comedian, you know, because Chris Tucker is, you know, one of the, you know, he's very underrated comedian, you know, and you know, obviously like he's made big success, you know, with the Rush Hour series. You know, he appeared in another good film, Money Talks, you know. But it was just a nice idea to say, like, instead of, because, you know, the film obviously being Friday, it's nice that, like, you know, when you get the next one, it's someone else, but who can be as funny as Chris Tucker. With that being said, like, the returning characters are obviously John Witherspoon, you know, Craig's dad, you know, hilarious comedian, appeared in House Party, and also like he was the Pops in the Wayne Brothers series that I think was from the mid-90s to late 90s, you know, and also the neighborhood bully, I believe it's Tony Lister, who plays Debo. You know, so like and Debo in this one, he's literally just out of revenge, because what happens in the first after, like, you know, Craig gives him that, you know, that let's say WrestleMania beatdown at the end, you know, he gets taken to juvie, you know, he gets locked up, you know, and he basically breaks out at the start of this film. So the whole Debo's whole purpose is literally just to get payback, you know, and he has his like a little accomplice, Sticky Fingers, you know, who's from the rap group Onyx. And like what I really love and appreciate is from the beginning of the film, like it's confirmed in the early like prologue that Smokey, you know, played by Chris Tucker, went to rehab, you know, because he didn't pop give, you know, he couldn't stop like off the ganj, you know, so he went to rehab, you know, and they just like, you know, just put that out in the beginning. So there's already plans for Craig to go stay with his cousin and his uncle Elroy. So like, and immediate once they're like on the road to make their way to South Central, Devo and Sticky Fingers like stop. They appear right in front of them on the middle of the highway road, and they're saying like, yeah, you ain't going nowhere. And like Pops he just puts the floor on, he floors it and just drives straight through them. You know what I mean? So it's really just this, yeah, just a sick entertaining bit. And like, what I love is they just tell a bit. They For someone, what is really cool is for someone who hasn't seen the first one, it's like in just early montage clips of the beginning, it already kind of like says, okay, this is what happened on last week of Dragon Ball Z. It does that kind of like, okay, so if you weren't familiar with the first film, you don't have to watch it. You could just jump in this one as a new viewer to the Friday series. So like, Craig and Pops, they arrive to, South Central, the suburbs. And when they arrive there, they see this like kind of nice, big, like, basically like a mansion, and basically, this is where like Uncle Elroy and Day Day live. So like, obviously like it's, Mike Epps. Played Day Day. His dad, Uncle Elroy, he's played by Don Curry. Similar, like kind of like what House Party 3 kind of did. Like the Friday films brought a lot of the comedians who were on the Def Comedy Jam show at the time. So anytime you see some of these comedians, kind of like how you see Ricky Smiley in Friday After Next and Cat Williams, all of them were appearing through the Def Comedy Jam, and this, like I said, and this is why I really appreciate the Friday series and the House Party series, because they picked up a lot of comedians, like Chris Tucker got his big break, from the first one. Mike Epps got his big break from this one, Kevin Hart, sorry, not Kevin Hart, Cat Williams in Friday After Next, and obviously in House Party 3, Eddie Griffin, Bernie Mac, list goes on and on. So many comedians who appeared in that, Russell Simmons' vehicle during the times were like, showcased in these films. So like, yeah, so basically when they get there, like, he's already shown like John Witherspoon cannot stand Uncle Elroy, because what happened is John Witherspoon, his character, he's basically been that like the 9 to 5 man. He's the one who's been working as a dog catcher, since the first one. That's your ass, Mr. Postman. He's been there since, working that, basically forever. Uncle Elroy, on the other hand, he's one of them guys who he literally just, he just lives the way he wants, and he basically luckily won the lotto, so there's this main jealousy of like, Pops to, what's his name, John Witherspoon's to his brother Elroy. So even when he drops off Craig, he says he doesn't even want to go to the house, and Elroy just says, how you doing, man? Still stepping on that dog. So I mean, like when they get to the suburbs, to Craig's, Day Day's, place, with your Uncle Elroy, as like Ice Cube, playing Craig's, he's walking into this area in the suburbs. He's just so impressed and like enthralled, like, wow, this is so much better than from my area, the ghetto, and he's just coming in, he's seeing like the paved driveway, Day Day's like sweet automobile, and he comes in and he sees Uncle Elroy, he has like a new kind of sugar mama who's called Sugar. Yeah, and like some of the funniest scenes in this film are between like Kim Whitley, she also played in My Wife and Kids, who plays Sugar, and Ice Cube, because like she comes down one time. Like when Craig had I already introduced this Sugar to Craig, and from the moment they lock eyes, yeah, Sugar Sugar, has the hots for Craig, but and Elroy notices it. One time, like she grabs it and says, "Yo, you even cuter than your baby pictures." And she tried to like tongue him down. And Elroy was like, "No, wait a minute, you can't do that." And probably one of the most comedic scenes. Yeah, she says, All right, cool. She says, nah, you gotta do that with me. Get upstairs. Then Sugar says, help me up. Elroy basically gets it, slaps her on the back. She goes upstairs, but it was kind of the thing. Yeah, Elroy even gives him a pep lesson. He says, look, man, you my cousin, you my nephew and I love you, but if I catch you in my sugar jar, we about to have a problem. Because he saw from that interaction though, like, if Elroy wasn't at home and Craig's at home, again, this is what I'm talking about, temptation, and I'm wearing this shirt. It speaks for itself. Hey, I'm talking from experience, man. Yeah, one thing I really love with Don Curry playing Uncle Elroy, there's this like he has this kind of nuance which is really just like a trademark to him. Like every time he was speaking to Craig, he would always alert him. Like one time he says like they're like him, Sugar, and him, Sugar, and Craig. They're sitting down like in the this big kind of palace, and they're getting high, and Craig was like, he was kind of shocked that Uncle Elroy gets high, and Uncle Elroy was like, but I'm your Uncle Elroy. I don't care how high you get. Every time he jumps, it's like you have to like get up. It's got like so much energy. I mean, one line he says like, "I'm about to show you who the real Puff Daddy really is," but like he's just got so much presence on the screen. When Elroy's on the screen, it's like you definitely just very invested and interested, and it's just a great like the characters they just have very good chemistry, similar to the first one, because there's a lot of like films like Hollywood comedic films that will put like several different comedians, but they can't gel enough to work together. But I feel like with the Friday series, especially, like they were able to put these kind of different comedians who had their kind of different traits, and they could still, make this, superb, film series. So like, where the main, like, all right, the main like kind of narrative of like, next Friday is basically there where Day Day and Elroy and Craig are now are based next door to them. They had these Mexican gang who basically got out of prison. And what happens is they one of the I think his name's Baby Joker. He basically has this kind of like nice senorita girl who's played by Lisa Rodriguez. This like yeah, like whoo, nice hot Latina girl. So like basically her and Craig have this kind of like it's not saying like a relationship, but it's like Craig was just more like interested in that, and then the girl was like not like, no, I don't take black guys. She was interested in him, and it's like that kind of makes the tension early on in the in the beginning. So like with that said, like then obviously Day Day had his store at he had his job at his what was it, the Pinky store. Pinky, who was played by Clifton Powell, he also appeared in the House Party and appeared in the Don't Menace to Society film. Again, another great actor and great comedian. Day Day was working there, even though like his house was he's them not living good. He was working there as kind of like it just feels like a part-time kind of retail job. What happens is when they're there though, they finds out that their house is due for like legal fees. They have like unpaid taxes and that, and basically they have way like it actually happens like Michael Rapport. I hope I'm saying it right. He actually gets the peers in this, and he gives Craig like basically said that they can seize the property if they don't get this amount at this time. You know what I mean? So this is where like the big pressure comes on, because like it makes it like at one moment probably like they didn't have to really keep the job at Pinky's, but once they got this letter, it's like they said, okay, he needs the job. It's like at the utmost important. But then what goes on to happen was the scene, like when Craig comes into the store, but like I think Day Day and Roach are getting high. Craig actually starts fighting with Pinky because Pinky didn't know who he was. He thought he was getting robbed because what they did is they locked the store to get high, and yeah, and like Craig and Pinky going back and forth like crazy action, and like and the thing was like at the start when Pinky had like his piece on Craig, he was like, you know, I see you in my store, but where's the goddamn drugs? Then Craig was trying to speak, he's like, say again, So every time every time he would ask him a question, but then he was just say, shut up, that goddamn word, say again. So he kept on asking questions, but he didn't even want an answer from him, which was just totally tremendous. But like, what was really sweet was when he turned the tables. Craig got the piece and pointing at Pinky. Pinky was proper rich. He's like, man, I can't die, man. I got a wife. I got a side piece on the side. And like because of that kind of altercation, Pinky, he was like, is that your cousin? He like fires Day Day and what's it, Day Day's friend Roach straight off the spot. So it puts them even in more trouble, because now like even though they're gonna seize the property, now he doesn't have a job to possibly get funds from that. And even earlier before this, what I forgot to mention is whichever way you look at it, basically Tamala Jones, nice, beautiful black actress. She basically she's basically saying she's pregnant with Day Day's baby. So even before actually Pinky shows up, like they basically go to the store to basically say like Day Day's gotta take responsibility, and she brings like this like kind of hench kind of Serena Williams more for a woman to just be a Day Day called Baby D, and they they exchange this great scene where they're running around the car, and Day Day kind of stops her by giving her like a Scooby snack, to say like you ain't gonna catch me as usual, man. I'll give you like a chocolate chip cookie, but you gotta lay off my back. And she was saying that she thought Craig Ice Cube was attractive, so he was trying to like hook them up, but then he was just like, nah, F it, man. And that's where like it led to them, getting high and locking the store because all that stress from like the Mexican gang across the street, what is it? Them coming to seize the property, he this like baby. Baby this woman, Tamela Jones is saying is his, so that's why he went into just to like chill with the green man. So like yeah, then like basically like what happens like so near like the third act, because I just didn't even this film is surprisingly very like quick, like I wouldn't even say it's three acts because like the first act is mainly just like when they're basically getting to where the suburbs are where like Day Day and Uncle Elroy is based. Then you got that scene like in the the if you want to call it like the high street, like when they go to Pinky's stores. And then like the third part, which I'm gonna be talking about now, is when they basically find out that the Mexicans have part of money from their drug dealings, and that they basically got this kind of like silver kind of cylinder. Craig ultimately deduces like there's gotta be money in there because why would they be so protective of it? So like what happens is they end up planning this like kind of way like like a method like how they can jump into these like hombres house and try confiscate this money. One thing I did love is Day similar to Smokey, they had that both kind of like nervous kind of quality, what I mean? Like they were like they're all strong, like saying I'm a pimp, like what are they gonna do? But when like danger actually happens, they're the first one to hightail it out of there, because like Craig and even like Roach, the other guy was working in Pinky stores. They were down. They said like, you know what? It's drug money anyway, so let's just go take it. They didn't work hard for the money. Let's just go inside and then take it. But they did was like, no, man, you lot go in there by yourselves, man. I'm cool. So like they only like wait till like night, and they end up going to their jumping into their place to go get this money. The only issue is that they're inside the Amigos like place, they're having like this kind of Friday party, and they invite these like nice 10 out of 10 senoritas. One of the girls is so bad. Her name's Carmen Serrano. She appeared in Breaking Bad. as the principal. You know, you just look at, if you have seen it, check that, check the hot principal from Breaking Bad. You know, she was in there as well. May have been one of her first earlier acting roles. You know, but they have these like nice shakers. You know, and these lot are getting it down. Meanwhile, Craig's in there, you know, and he's like trying to find the money. What he ends up finding is Lisa Rodriguez, you know, the beautiful sister, you know, and I don't know what it is kind of implied, you know, because like the scene changes because he basically like Ice Cube's able to get you know, he goes into Baby Joker's room and he's able to, you know, basically nab the cylinder filled with the money. It goes upstairs and it's like a short scene of like, you know, Lisa, like Craig was about to leave. He said, I've got the money, I'm about to bail. But he basically stays there and it is implied that he probably does get coffee. You know, I got that from Luke Cage, you know. But you know, again, who knows what happens, you know. But you know, straight after that scene, yeah. So like, I mean, like immediately straight after, you know, like when Craig got the money, he bailed. You know, he didn't even wait for Day and Fig because I think they were meant to be lookouts. Then they went back and went. So when Craig got the money, he went straight back to Elroy's place. But I think Day and Roach went and they went to the Amigos' doors. They knocked on the door and they asked for sugar, and they immediately got brought in. And that's when the Mexicals got even more irate because they were with the ladies and they were just suspicious, you know. And it's like they told the Baby Joker actually tells one of his you know, compadres like he speaks in Spanish. He says, yeah, olele Holmes, go check the pot of money, you know. And he then goes to find out that, you know, the money was not there, you know. So they were definitely, obviously, you know, they were definitely pointing fingers at, you know, Roach and Day. Yeah, so I mean, so where the film basically like comes to the climax is, you know, Roach and Day are kind of like imprisoned in the like Mexicans' place, and you know, Baby Joker's basically like, you know, he's gonna take them out if he doesn't hear anything, you know, what's going on with his dinero. You know, meanwhile in the other place, you know, Craig, Elroy, you know, Sugar, and even Craig's daddy by Craig's dad played by John Witherspoon. He comes back, you know, he drives back because early on he had a call from, you know, Debo trying to say like, you know, Craig's in trouble, so comes back to the place at the end. So basically at the end, like everyone is in the setting for the eventual finale of the film. Yeah, and what happens is just a real you know spectacular scene of like where you know, Elroy and like the two dads of you know, Craig and they go in to rescue the, you know, basically the boys, you know, and basically a fight ensues in the you know, in the back of the Mexican's place, like their garden. You know, like Elroy was kind of like, you know, playing possum, and then, you know, Baby Joker comes in and it's like he gets like beaten up by Craig, you know. So he's a tough hombre, man. You know, don't mess with Baby Joker, you know, honestly. But like yeah, Craig and them, like they get into like a, you know, really critical back and forth, like kind of like, you know, let's say, you know, UFC like match and that. And you know, out of nowhere, like Baby Joker gets the upper hand. You know, he raises up his kind of like, you know, he's like AK like 57, 47, whatever it is, you know. He raises it up, he's about to like take out that whole family, and out of nowhere, you know, Debo comes out behind Baby Joker like Michael Myers, pounds him on the head. I say pounds him on the head. You know, Baby Joker's taken out. Then Debo's there with the weapon, literally just about to fire it because he's like, remember me, punk. I'm about to get revenge, you know. And just before that, that menacing dog, which I forgot to mention earlier, Chico, he comes in and starts like biting Debo's hand. And straight after that, the feds, 5 police, cops, whatever you want to call them, they come in and raid the whole place, you know. And yeah, man, like after that, pretty much, you know, all is well. You know, they end up, Craig's able to still get the, you know, the money from the cylinder, you know, because what I love this, I don't think Baby Joker could say anything because it was drug money. So, and you know, from obviously being in the pen, he couldn't snitch. So even Craig walks by, all of them, you know, Sticky Fingers, Debo, Sticky Fingers playing Tyrone, Tony Lissa playing Debo, Baby Joker, he walks by all of them, you know, with the money, no problem, and it goes back into their place, you know. And you know, it's just a nice, like, you know, they party and they send it off, and it's decided Craig's gonna return back to where he's originally from, back to the projects, and it's just like it's just a nice kind of like finish, to the end of the film. But yeah, next Friday, man. Why would well, let me actually touch on like I always do, touch on the soundtrack. As I was saying, like the shift from the mid 90s when the original film came, which was kind of like the gangster rap, the Tupacs, the Notorious Bigs. The shift changed from the early 2000s. As I mentioned, you've got like Eminem now in the soundtrack. You've got God rest her soul. You've got Aaliyah, Wycliffe Jean. Ice Cube actually does a few tracks in this, and Lil Wayne, the Wu-Tang Clan. So you got some artists who were like big in the mid 90s and then like started to pop more in the early 2000s, and you got some who were just debuting. Late 90s. Like I'd say Eminem was definitely more late 90s to currently now. It's like he's still in my opinion the king of pop. And you got Ja Rule, and definitely my favorite track on this. I think it's the main advert for this film is the one that they play immediately when the credits go. You could do it, put it into it. I could do it, put it. That one, yeah. I think that's just a nice catchy beat, and it just fits the times of this film, And Ice Cube has just a great delivery in this in that track. Yeah, so all right, so now it's like the $50 million question from Richie Rich. Would you say is next Friday better than the first Friday film? Right. What I would say is, in my own experience, when I first touched on the Friday series, we watched Next Friday. When we were in like I said, all right, now we're approaching the Christmas time. As a kind of like Christmas tree, there would always be like films people would bring in. The most always popular vote was always Next Friday, So I remember watching this film. It got beat to the bush. I remember watching it each year when I was in secondary school / high school. So it's like I knew so much about Day Day even more than Smokey, because I had the original VHS cassette, but I'd only watch it a couple of times. It's like I never could sit down and watch it, because one thing you'll get is if you watch Next Friday before Friday, there's a different kind of pace. Next Friday is very like color, neon lights, whereas the first film is a very kind of slow build up pace, if you understand. Like I said, this film is a very, very fast film. The moment when they do the prologue, Craig is going straight to Day Day and Elroy's, and then it goes to the Pinky, whatever happens with the Pinky and Tamela Jones, Baby D, and then it goes straight to the the climax, with them all in the suburbs. As for the first film, it's very, very slow, just like that whole opening scene, like Craig got fired from his job, but it was from stealing boxes. But they don't go into it as much, and you get this kind of like slow kind of build up of the film where Craig and Smokey are really not doing anything. They're just literally sitting down the whole day on Friday, like, it's Friday, you ain't got no job, and we ain't got SHIT to do. So, and it's really encapsulated with the whole notion of the the marijuana, the weed, because when you like, I've never had it, but like from what I've heard from other people, when they've had it, it's that kind of slow, kind of chill kind of feeling, and it's so pictured with the imagery and the way the speed of the first film goes of this is what weed feels like. That's how it feels in the first film. In the second film, it's very like like pop, like I said, like 1 minute Debo's here, 1 minute the guy Mr. Stanley from the first film, he just appears out of nowhere. The Mexicans, then the Lisa Rodriguez, the beautiful women, a lot of these characters, even Michael Blackson appears in this, like when you say, yeah, you motherfucker, you know who you messing with, the angry, I'm not gonna say he's Ghanaian, but the angry West African, yeah. When he's in there, it's just again, he's just there. So there's a lot of like pop, 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 pop everywhere. it just doesn't keep that slowness of the first film, which I think was brilliant that F. Gary Gray did that because it suited the idea of, the slowness of like, I got fired and I ain't got a job, but instead of going to a place and, trying to get this money, I'm just gonna sit here and chill. And it was only because of that danger of like, Big One was gonna send these guys to smoke, Day Day and Smokey. That's when they had to like say, okay, we got to do something. You know what I mean? And with the threat of Debo, where it kicks on to the end. But I think it was just like a mastermind effect of how they did that in the first Friday film. Just a very, very slow, because I assure you, definitely. Let's see if I can see the time on this. This one's about just over 1 hour and 30 minutes. And I know the first film is nearly just coming around to 2 hours, but even with the just time saying, it's just that there's just that kind of, let me know if anyone has this kind of, observation and that. But I just feel like the first one just works so much better because of the slowness film, because of, obviously we've been involved in the projects. Whereas this one, again, with the era it's in the early 2000s, it's kind of more fast paced. One thing as well I would say is the dynamite like go, basically like the let's say the eye candy. In the first film it was Nia Long, this one it was Lisa Rodriguez, and the second one I believe it was the girl with the blue eyes and the long black hair. Her name escapes me, but I'll definitely think. But she was the one who basically, they wanted, but she ended up hooking up with Craig, the one who was working under Pinky. That girl. What I felt is that in the first film, I believe Nia Long was kind of central to the role of the eye candy. What I'm saying is like she had kind of more like a relevance. Where as like, because she was I believe she was friends or sisters with Felicia, played by Angela Means. And I remember like when she comes into the end and she stands up against Debo when no one else was, so she kind of had more kind of like stay with that character. Whereas Lisa Rodriguez and even the pretty mixed race, I don't, she may be mixed race, but the girl who's working under Pinky, they were just eye candy. They were just for people like, when they just walk across, people would be like, that's it, what I mean? But it's like where it's like if you take them out, it's like you'd be like, it's not a big deal. But I think Nia Long plays a central role to the first film because it was established in that film like Craig never even wanted to be with the big bullet, the hoochie mama girl. Never wanted to be with her. He wanted to be Nia Long because Nia Long was a fitness instructor. She had it going on. Whereas the other one was just like I said, she's a fast girl, fast to take your money, fast to mess you up in the honey, like, don't ever mess with a fast girl. But I just felt like, I felt like Nia Long was kind of missing it. It would have been nice to see what happened with Nia Long and Ice Cube's kind of relationship at the end, because they kind of get together. It would have been really cool if Nia Long was in this instead of Lisa Rodriguez, even though it's nice that they kind of freshened it out with a kind of new cast and they brought some of the old cast back. It just would have been nice because Nia Long was central to the first film. It's okay, not as much as like, Mike Epps replaced Chris Tucker, which I think was a good decision, but I thought it would have been nice to see Nia Long in this one. Yeah, just going on to the debate with like Mike Epps and Chris Tucker, I said it once and I said it before. I still think if I said overall body of work, Chris Tucker is still the better comedian. He's just like he's just more spontaneous, and that high pitched voice, he's just got, it's like that kind of thing. There can only be one Chris Tucker, Mike Epps is like from the moment he comes in, he's just got big shoes to fill in, but he still does a superb job, of like not trying to imitate Chris Tucker, but trying to be his own, in his own Day, not trying to just be Smokey number two, and like I said, he works good for this film, I don't think Day would have worked in the first film, just like I don't think Smokey would have worked in this film, so I just feel it's just a lovely choice that we had this fun with him in the first film in 1995 film, but it was just a great chance to just see another new bright comedian. And one thing I would also say with this film is like, especially like watching this, because again when I was watching this I was in my teens, when I watched Next Friday, and the other Friday films, around. It was always Christmas. I remember we always had the trilogy set. Would watch them sometimes back, but this is the one we always watch the most. What I would definitely say is this one and Friday After Next. If I do go on to review that someday, these films, it's more or less serious. You get what I mean? Like the first film, even though it was a comedy, it still had this ghetto vibe. You get what I mean? Like it still had that kind of menace to society and boys in the hood theme of like that kind of real subjects of like people like people spending monies like spending their hard earned like money that they got from like selling dope or drugs, and they just said like let me just smoke all of it and not give the money back. They're gonna come back and go and clock them. That's real stuff that was happening during that 90s time, like in Boys in the Hood and Men in Society, which they brought that in the first film, even though it was a comedy, it still touched on the real subjects, of like Debo hitting Angela Means, you know what I mean? Or like, the idea I got fired, but I'm just gonna sit around and do nothing, you know what I mean? Because maybe if I've not got a job, then I just have to go back into the streets. You know what I mean? So it still dealt with them subjects. With the second one, it's kind of more like just kind of like a 5-year anniversary kind of feeling of like, this is just to celebrate, 5 years of the first Friday film. So you can immediately tell the serious of this film is nowhere near to the first one. And to even go on with Friday After Next, that's like, you can't really take them too as serious in that. But it's still a fun, nice kind of good feeling film to watch. You know what I mean? If you've loved the Friday film, you would definitely love this. You know, I mean, I would always I've always watched. Now that finally I've got both of them. It would be nice to watch the first one and the second one. Because what happened, like I said, I kept watching this one, not by my design. Like we kept watching this like in school, when I would go to my cousin's house, we'd always watch. Everyone always had this Next Friday because I guess it was just a popular like kind of cult film early in the the noughties era, But it's like as I go older, it's like the first Friday film. That's the one I kept on returning back, and I miss like the jokes, like I love the one when they're on the ground and Chris Tucker's like, you got knocked the F out, which became a staple in this film. John Witherspoon uses it on Baby Joker. They use it in Friday After Next, you know what I mean? So I just love like like just the certain like expressions and trademarks that came from this series, and it's really great because I've always talked about I really loved. I think the House Party series was the first one that really brought these kind of like comedy and black actors together, like them characters that broke out, who were around the time, were on Def Comedy Jam, did appear through them black TV sitcoms. It was nice to see them in these feature films, and it's really cool is once the final House Party, I'm not counting House Party 4, whatever that fog is, I'm not going to talk about it, but like House Party 3 finished in 1994, Friday came out in 95, and it felt like this was the successor to the House Party films, and I feel like to this day, I still think they've not really captured that, that kind of the dynamic there, What I would go on to mention, I'll touch a bit on later, as I've seen like what was kind of going on with the whole like everyone let's hate the top comedian in the world, Kevin Hart, what I have seen is because again with the Friday series, this is where Mike Epps and Cat Williams broke out, and if I were to compare these films to, let's say, I don't know, Ride Along, it's a complete difference, man. Like when I mean the just the way how Cat Williams, and if I use Cat Williams and Mike Epps on this side, and I've got Kevin Hart on this side, the way how them two act in that, I'd say they're probably more gangster. You know what I mean? Like, Mike Epps and Cat Williams, they had that kind of certain charm and, like, gang. I don't even know if I can use this word, gangsterness, that they had in these films, that opposed to like Kevin Hart. And I'm not dogging Kevin Hart. I think he's a great comedian, but I think with Kevin Hart, it's more like Kevin Hart relies on that whole kind of like, I'm the butt of the joke, I'm this tool. Everyone laughs at me, funny, funny, funny. You get what I mean? And it's like, whereas I loved how like Day Day was in this film. He's saying he's a pimp, but he's just a complete idiot. He's a coward, but he plays it so well, and it's like he has the look. Mike Epps definitely has the look for like that, if you want to call it like the Hollywood show business, because he definitely it's like, and that's why I mentioned that is I think Ice Cube and Mike Epps got great chemistry, similar to how Chris Tucker and Ice Cube had it. Great chemistry. Another great film is to definitely check out is All About the Benjamins, which I think came out a couple years after. Definitely check that out. But I was just saying that, yeah, I just felt like, because I watched Ride Along, and it's like, I don't know if the times has changed, maybe I'm not with it, but I just feel like that comedic humor is not nowhere near the same of what like Mike Epps and like Cat Williams were bringing. Even though Friday After Next is not really a great film, those scenes with Cat Williams with Diamond, man, him playing the pimp. I think her name was KD, what was it? But like her controlling the pimp, and like when he like, has the fight with Terry Crews later, it's great. But it's like I feel like Cat Williams and Mike Epps, they had this kind of like gangster quality, like they were more owning their kind of thing. Whereas I just saw, as what I've seen from like Ride Along and a few of other Kevin Hart's films, his one's more kind of the butt of the joke. Very fast talking and very funny, but it's like, again, I'm not gonna really debate on like who, like if Cat Williams is a better comedian than Kevin Hart, or like Mike Epps is a better comedian. But I would definitely say, and I can go on record saying, from seeing this and then, hopefully I can review Friday After Next, they're way much better actors in this, Forget about like if Kevin Hart's the best stand-up comedian. I just think like acting wise, they slot so easily into this film, You'd think like they've been acting for years. They're naturals, for guys who were doing on the Def Comedy Jam stand-ups, they're very like natural in their kind of environments, man, and they fit so well, man. And it's just a shame, man, because once the final one came, I don't think that series of the House Party and the Friday series has continued. I think they tried with the right, like I said, the closest thing I've seen to this is Ride Along, Ice Cube and working with Kevin Hart. But it, blockbuster aside, man, seeing through that is very very difficult to do, man. But yeah, man, I would definitely say if you've watched the first Friday film, definitely check this out. If you're a fan of the House Party films, definitely check this out. If you've watched the Def Comedy Jam series, and you've seen Mike Epps, you've seen obviously Cat Williams, who plays in the later one, Michael Blackson, of course. You get a few appearances from the the stand-up comedians who appeared in the Def Comedy Jam series, and I think you would definitely like it. Like I said, it's not a film to take as seriously as the first one, but you will still get that same kind of like entertainment value that the first one displayed. It's a very like, when you watch it, it keeps your attention going. You know what I mean? It's not one that you'll be like, when you finish, you'll be like, oh, I've got to watch next Friday again. But as it's on, you're still very much interested on, what's going on. The whole kind of like, this fun stuff that's going on in this film, which is really grand, and I feel like I really would love like if they could make another, sequel. They've been talks about last Friday, Again, it's not like it's needed, but it would be nice, as like a kind of like a reunion if all these characters appeared on screen, on the silver screen one more time. So folks, man, that's my review of next Friday, the suburbs that make the hood look good. Let me know if you've seen this one or the first Friday film. Give me your comments about it. If you agree with some of my opinions on it or you disagree, let me know. We can have a chat about it. Why not, man? But yeah, man, I'm gonna stay tuned for my next review, which will be coming very, very shortly. Wait for it. Peace. 2 fingers.
I can do it, put your ass into it.
You can do it, put your back into it.